A very good evening to you and welcome to Friday right here at TV 47. It is the 14th day of July 2023, a day that EPRA, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, traditionally reviews its fuel prices. What do we expect today before the clock hits midnight? The big question lies there. Is it a plus or a minus? But first, to our topics. Tonight, religious leaders call for truce talks between the president and the Azimio leader.
We once again appeal that your administration repeals the finance bill.
As the National Cohesion and Integration Commission called for cessation of the protests.
The solution for the same is not violence, neither anarchy.
Also tonight, the Azimio Brigade ups protests to thrice a week.
Wewe ni Mkenya kama mimi. Wewe ni Mkenya kama huyo mtu unapiga risasi.
Kama polisi hawapatiwi orders kuumiza watu, wao ni wananchi kama sisi.
As the government maintains it will not allow death-causing protests.
Ili maandamano isemekana imefaulu, watu wangapi wanapaswa kukufa? Watu mali kiasi gani inapaswa kuharibika? Maafa kiasi gani inafaa kuwa imefanyika? That we will not accept.
Plus, panic at an all-time high in Mandera after suspected Al-Shabaab militants staged 3 simultaneous attacks, killing 2 officers and 1 teacher. The government talking tough. And PM East African Time, welcome to the bulletin. Catherine Simoloi is on the sign language interpretation. I'm used to Stanley Nyeringita. You can always talk to us on our socials below your screens. First off, as the Azimio la Umoja coalition prepares to take the mass demonstrations at Nuchaya from Wednesday next week, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, that is NCIC, and religious leaders have called for peace, sending a clarion call to President William Ruto and opposition boss Raila Odinga to find a common ground and work on a solution to the ongoing unrest. Elizabeth Atieno begins us off.
As calls to the public to continue taking part in the now tri-weekly Azimio protests intensify, so are the calls for truce and dialogue between the president and Azimio leader Raila Odinga. Today, the body mandated to foster cohesion and integration among Kenyans has made a passionate appeal to the two leaders to get on the negotiation table in a bid to avert a repeat of the protests that were witnessed in over 20 counties, which led to deaths and destruction.
While it is true that the cost of living is becoming strenuous to many Kenyans, the solution for the same is not violence, neither anarchy. Consequently, we urge Kenyans to give dialogue a chance.
According to NCIC, if the current situation persists, as was witnessed on the Wednesday's demonstration, then the country is likely to record an increase in the number of criminal gangs from the 326 reported in 2016.
We have proposed that hate speech cases, incitement to violence cases, take at least 1 year, but that is yet to happen. So that can only be addressed by the many institutions that are supposed to prosecute and to ensure that these culprits face the law.
The National Council of Churches of Kenya, NCCK, has called for the repeal of the Finance Act of 2023 and a stop to the ongoing demonstrations, further urging Azimio boss Raila Odinga and President Ruto to set aside their differences and hold talks. Sentiments echoed by bishops from Anglican churches in Siaya County.
We once again appeal that your administration repeals the finance bill 2023 so as to review the heavy taxation burden it imposes on Kenyans.
The opposition is the government in waiting. We now appeal to you to overhaul the tactical approach adopted by the Azimio la Umoja coalition, recognizing that the current push for mass action is pushing the country into insurrection.
Who have been injured and those who have lost livelihoods and properties. Let us declare that no more blood of Kenyans should be shed. As religious leaders, we have listened to Kenyans and recognized that our nation is headed in the wrong direction.
And just as they say that the current president was a student, a political student, is there any way they can meet and talk? Of course, we know that the president has had some hard stance.
We urge them to reactivate and expand the bipartisan parliamentary committee to address all these issues. We believe that the solution shall be arrived at amicably.
On its part, the United Nations Human Rights Office has criticized a section of police officers who exercised the use of force and firearms to tame protesters, saying the incidents have led to the loss of up to 23 lives, leaving dozens injured. UN office has further called for peace as the country prepares for another round of demonstrations scheduled to run from Wednesday to Friday every week, effective the 19th of July this year. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
And even as the calls for truce continue, the government and the Azimio coalition are headed for clash next week after the opposition said it will hold demonstrations 3 times a week. According to Azimio, the move has been informed by overwhelming demand from Kenyans to intensify their protests until President William Ruto heeds to the demands. And as Apollo Kamau reports, opposition principals Martha Karua and Kalonzo Musyoka have insisted the demos are still on.
Despite a government ban on Azimio's next week's street protests, the coalition has instead dismissed the threat while intensifying their mass protest to force President William Ruto heed to their demands. In what the opposition describes as an overwhelming demand from Kenyans, Azimio has now slated 3 days for demos next week, starting Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Opposition principals, led by Martha Karua and Kalonzo Musyoka, told the government off on its threat to ban the demos, insisting the protests would go on.
Kama uko na uwezo wa kuua wa Kenya milioni 50, endelea utuue zote. Lakini hatutakupigia magoti na hatutakosa kuitisha haki yetu. Maandamano ni haki. Mumeona kwa runinga Ufaransa maandamano ikiendelea kila siku. Hamjasikia polisi wa huko wakipiga watu risasi.
The leaders who visited those injured in Wednesday's demos at Machakos Level 5 Hospital condemned the police for shooting innocent civilians while calling for peaceful demos.
Na hiyo shida yote ilianza Mlolongo walipotumia risasi na kuua huyo kijana Dennis. Hapa kuna wawili waliaga dunia hapa katika hospitali hii. Pale Shalom tumepata 3. Kuna wale wengine walipelekwa City Mortuary. Sisi Martha amesahau kusema tutasimama na hizo familia.
The opposition wants the government to repeal the Finance Act, remove what it says are punitive taxes, and convene joint talks on the reconstitution of IEBC. Apol Kamau, TV47.
And on the flip side, President William Ruto has stated that he will not allow anti-government demonstrations to take place next week, despite opposition leader Raila Odinga urging his followers to take to the streets in protest of the current regime, announcing 3 days of protest weekly against the Kenya Kwanza government over high cost of living, among other issues. He further castigated Raila Odinga and the Azimio Brigade over violence and killings of demonstrators, insisting that Azimio is out for Nusu Mkate government and his government won't budge to his demands. His deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, urging Raila Odinga to retire in peace instead of chaos.
Speaking in Nakuru County on Friday after launching the Njambini-Naivasha Road, President William Ruto underscored that violence and destruction of property, which he says have become the norm during protests called by opposition, will no longer occur under his watch, and that his government will deal with the Azimio Brigade through the law.
Kutafuta uongozi wa taifa letu la Kenya, kutumia damu ya wananchi, maafa ya wananchi na kuharibu mali ya Kenya. Hiyo haiwezekani. Na hakuna vile utabadilisha Kenya kwa hiyo barabara unaenda. Na hiyo barabara umeenda, mimi nataka nikuhakikishie. Mimi niko na wewe macho kwa macho. Tutakutana. Haiwezekani. We cannot accept.
Ruto further chided the former Prime Minister in what he said he has been thorn in the side of the past governments for decades, further noting that Raila gave the late President Kibaki a hard time in 2008 coalition government, as well as disrupting the Jubilee government under retired President Uhuru Kenyatta through the handshake, the president insisting that he won't give in to his demands, sentiments echoed by his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, who wants Raila to retire.
Hawa nitawakalia ngumu kwa sababu Kenya ni yetu sisi zote. Kenya si ya maandamano, na tunataka hawa watu wa maandamano watuambie, ili maandamano isemekana imefaulu, watu wangapi wanapaswa kukufa, watu mali kiasi gani inapaswa kuharibika, maafa kiasi gani inafaa kuwa imefanyika. That we will not accept.
We want to advise you from Nakuru. Can you take a break, call yourself for a small meeting, and try to analyze why the people of Kenya have rejected you a record 5 times?
His Kenya Kwanza brigade urging the president to stay put and lead the country as he is legally in office, castigating the former premier and retired president Uhuru Kenyatta for allegedly funding maandamano to disrupt peace in the country by fanning chaos.
Tumie maandamano ati kwa anniversary ya Agosti mosi watapindua serikali ya William Ruto. Tunawatangazia kutoka Kinamba, hii serikali sio ya William Ruto. Hii serikali ni yetu sisi wa Kenya na tutailinda. Rais, nataka nikuambie, usitishwe na Raila, usitishwe na Uhuru Kenyatta.
Kila wakati atakuwa na lament, kulienda hivi, kura zilienda hivi. Alishindwa akiwa na deep state. Your Excellency, tulikuwa na deep state. On the 9th, sisi tulikuwa kwa deep state. On the 9th mwezi wa 8. The following day tulijikuta kwa deep freezer. Tukihangaika huko na baridi. Kama tulitushinda tukiwa na deep state, zaidi ya utashindwa ukiwa na deep state kweli seriously.
Since last week, at least 15 Kenyans have died during demonstrations, hundreds injured and properties worth millions destroyed, with blame game on who's responsible going on. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47, Nairobi.
And barely 3 months ago, a family in Kibera lost their newborn baby after tear gas canister was hurled into the house during clashes between residents and the police. A month ago, 35 pupils from Ndurarua Primary School were hospitalized after police used tear gas to disperse traders who were protesting the overnight demolition of their stalls in Kawangware. During yesterday's anti-government protest, 50 pupils from Kihumbuini Primary School in Kangemi were hospitalized after tear gas canister was lobbed into their classroom. The effects of tear gas are unfathomable, especially on children who are still developing both physically and mentally.
Chaos, pain and confusion. Scenes at the Kihumbuini Primary School on Wednesday after a tear gas canister that was meant to counter protesters in the area landed in one of the classrooms during the Azimio protests. The incident sent fear, panic and anger among parents who rushed to the school to secure their children, 50 of whom were rushed to a nearby hospital with breathing difficulties. And with the new wave of protests beginning, parents are facing sleepless nights over the safety of their children in places where they're expected to be their safest, not to mention the impact the inhalation might have on the minors.
First thing you want to do is to evacuate this child from the site of exposure or wherever the tear gas has been lobbed.
According to Dr. Lorraine Kemunto, the eyes, respiratory tract and the lungs could bear the brunt of inhaling the gas, with its impacts more severe than thought to be.
My name is Dr. Lorraine Kemunto. I'm a medical officer with hospital. If you're talking about the eyes, they'll have tearing, which is I think the most common, burning sensation in your eyes. You have eye pain, blood vision, you can't see. When it comes to the nose, you'll have a running nose. You can have some maybe nose discomfort, pain, burning sensation as well. Some people even get swelling. Coming to the mouth and the throat, you'll have
the same, a burning sensation, especially in your throat.
What are you advised to do in case a child is exposed to tear gas?
The main measure is to flush the face, which will cover the eyes, nose and mouth, with copious amounts of water, so just to relieve that irritation.
The effects could be long-term.
So it will affect mainly your eyes. You might get issues with the nerve that supplies the eyes. You can get keratitis, which is just inflammation of the cornea, which is a part of the eye. Yeah, the chest-wise, you can also get some problems with asthma, reactivity, and in the long run, you can get obstructive disease. Yeah, so they can get long-term effects, especially with repeated and long-duration exposures.
But as parents continue worrying about the health of their children, Education CS Ezekiel Machogu, during his visit to the school, has said learning will continue as usual, asking officers to be mindful of learners when quelling protests.
Children should be able to come to school as usual because the government is going to ensure that the now measures are put in place such that there should be no such disruption, there should be no such interference.
Vera Alberta, TV47, Nairobi.
And to matters security, the terror group Al-Shabaab has staged an attack on a police station in Mandera County, northeastern province, causing massive damage of infrastructure and killings. Paul Kirebe with more.
In the Friday morning attack, at least 2 police officers were killed and a teacher as the attackers targeted Wogad police station about 42 kilometers north of Elwak town. According to sources, the attack occurred at around 1:40 a.m. local time. The militants destroyed a Safaricom mast in the area before staging the attack. On Thursday, the militants also attacked a military base in Gerilei, not far from Elwak in Gedo region of Somalia. The base was recently handed over by Kenya troops serving as part of the African Union. This happens as the drawdown of troops to exit Somalia continues. The Cabinet Secretary for Defense Aden Duale and a section of leaders from the region have visited Wajir County for security purposes. The CS has condemned the incidents of insecurity alleged to be caused by the Al-Shabaab. The move comes even as Kenya retracted on opening the borders of Somalia that was to be opened very soon. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
And meanwhile, business is slowly returning to normalcy in Sondu market at the Kericho-Kisumu border after 2 days of inter-community clashes rocked the area, leaving at least 2 people dead. The Interior Ministry now saying it will take a strong action against people who are fueling the skirmishes. Have a look. Following the recent resurgence of inter-community clashes in Transmara, Narok County, that saw 20 people being arrested, the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Professor Kithure Kindiki, has warned that border conflicts should be solved in an amicable way.
Shida ya mashamba, ya mipaka, ama ya kitu kingine kile, haiwezi kuwa kisingizio cha kuharibu mali na kuuana wenyewe kwa wenyewe.
Meanwhile, in Sondu market, which is at the border of Kericho and Kisumu counties, tension is still in the air, with the security personnel from both counties meeting with the Principal Secretary of Interior, Raymond Omolo.
There has been a meeting of all our security agencies, both in Kisumu County and Kericho County, the county security committees. They've had their meeting just to review what has transpired since yesterday, and they've already put in place a mechanism not just for deterrence but also a way of ensuring that this doesn't recur.
Hiyo maneno ya Sondu should not be politicized, and the administration down there wapate kutake charge na wapate kusuluhisha hiyo maneno. Hatutaki vita ya mipaka.
However, Kisumu County boss Professor Anyang' Nyong'o has faulted the police for their conduct on the skirmishes.
I have been in constant contact with the Kisumu County Security and Administration officers to ensure there is peace and security in Sondu. The affected areas, however, remain tense as more families, especially on the Kisumu side, flee their homes. A large number of livestock have been forcefully taken from their owners on our side.
Honorable Raymond Omolo
step in and help your people. You're in that position to protect all Kenyans equally, and that's what we are calling for.
And in the corridors of justice, the court has cleared Deepak Kamani, Rashmi Kamani, ex-permanent secretary Joseph Magari, and ex-PS Office of President Dave Mwangi of 3.5 billion shillings Anglo-Leasing charges. The court says the four have no case to answer. Take a listen.
The Anti-Corruption Court in Milimani has acquitted former Treasury Principal Secretary Joseph Magari, Dave Mwangi and David Onyonka, and businessman Deepak and Rashmi Kamani of conspiring to defraud the government of 3.5 billion Kenya shillings in the Anglo-Leasing case. Chief Magistrate Martha Mutuku cleared the four of the charges leveled against them. Delivering the verdict on Friday, the magistrate ruled that the prosecution failed to prove a prima facie case against all the accused persons. This, according to the magistrate, led to the acquittal under Section 210 of the Criminal Procedure Code. The Kamanis had been charged along with former Finance Minister David Mwiraria, who died during the trial. The Anglo-Leasing scandal, a high-profile corruption case, involved a series of fraudulent contracts signed with various companies for the procurement of security-related equipment and services. The scandal, which came to light in the early 2000s, caused a significant uproar in Kenya due to the large sums of money involved and the alleged involvement of high-ranking government officials. The prosecution had alleged that between October 30th, 2003 and April 14th, 2004, the accused persons conspired with others to engage in a scheme to defraud the government of Kenya of 3.5 billion Kenya shillings through a supplier's credit contract agreement for the modernization of the police security equipment and accessories projects. During the trial, the court was told one of the accused persons, U.S. businessman Bradley Backenfeld, had disowned signatures and denied being a director of international company Infotalent Limited, which is at the center of Anglo-Leasing police project known as ECOPS. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Deputy Director Julius Muraya, who gave evidence in the case, told the court that he and his colleague interviewed Backenfeld. Backenfeld was said to be a director of Infotalent Limited, the company awarded a tender by the government. He said the businessman told EACC the signature said to be his was forged and that he had never been a director of the company. Muraya was testifying in a case in which former PS Joseph Magari and Dave Mwangi, David Onyonka, and businessman Deepak and Rashmi Kamani, together with their father Rasmi Chamanlal, have denied conspiring to defraud the government of over 3.5 billion Kenya shillings. Led in his evidence in chief by Deputy DPP Nicholas Mutuku, the witness told the court they interviewed Backenfeld by showing him a proposal by Infotalent dated the 22nd of August 2003, purportedly written and signed by him. He said Backenfeld denied the signature, saying it was a forgery. Muraya said Backenfeld also denied having talked to or corresponded with any Kenyan government official over the Infotalent contract. Former head of public service Francis Mudhaura also testified during the hearing of Anglo-Leasing case. Mudhaura, who was led in his testimony at the time by Senior State Counsel Eva Kanyoira, told Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Martha Mutuku the government suspended 18 Anglo-Leasing contracts after realizing they were ghost projects. He said all the contracts received the necessary state approvals, including the green light from the then Attorney General Amos Wako. In her ruling, Chief Magistrate Martha Mutuku said the prosecution had failed to prove its case against all the accused.
From the courts, listen to this story. Islamic caps known as Takia caps or Kofias in East Africa are regarded as a garment of honor associated with the male believers of the Islamic religion and attached to the Swahili culture. To them, the Kofias are just not an identity but a treasure in the religion. However, few people, especially the non-Muslim, know the significance and how they are sewed.
The Kofias are unique in their designs, sewing techniques, and some bear preferences according to different age groups.
Zamani kulikuwa na kofia za harusi watu wakivaa wakati wa harusi. Kuna kofia za matanga watu wakivaa wakati wa matanga. Kuna kofia wakati wa sherehe katika mji tu kawaida wanavaa. kuna kofia za kupokea wageni, na kila moja ina maana yake na maua yake na majina yake. Kila kofia. Kuna kofia tuseme kama za wazee wengi, kuna kofia za tabaka pia, vijana, wazee na waheshimiwa.
Generally, there are original kofias and modern kofias sewn with rubber.
Lakini tutatumia material ile ile ya alamu ya asilia, wale wanaweka uzi, sisi tunaweka ile mpira. Katika kila tundu tutaweka mpira. Alafu wengine wanaita kofia za kompyuta, wengine wanaita kofia za mashini, wengine wanaita kofia za moto za kisasa. Lakini za asilia ya alamu ni kofia za kushona na mkono ambazo zaitwa handmade.
On the other hand, the original ones are very expensive for these obvious reasons.
Zaishi muda mwingi sana. Na zachukua muda mwingi sana kuchukua kushona. Miezi mitatu, kuna kofia za miezi 6. Yategemea ni sampuli gani kofia wewe washona.
The steps to sew them are 2. First is to get the fabric known as mshadari, take it to the floral designer and then to the tailor. We are informed that elderly people prefer to wear bulibuli mtanga and bulibuli sahihi designs, while the youth prefer more floral designs.
Sasa mawili ataamua. Ima taleta kwetu tumchapie hiyo raba ambazo za kisasa tumebuni, ama peleke kwa mshonaji. Kwa raba ni siku moja tu ishamalizika kofia. Lakini kofia hii ikienda kwa mshonaji inaweza kutukua miezi 3 mpaka miezi 6.
Besides the caps being honored nationally, even in the parliament, I wanted to know if it is good for a non-Muslim to wear. Sheikh Ahmed Mohammed tells us that it is not prohibited, but he who wears it must attach to its dignity.
Sasa wabara wanapochukua hizi kofia kuvaa, wasimisuse hizi kofia, kwa sababu huwezi kuvaa kofia ukaenda na club, utachukana Uislamu, utachukana sisi Waislamu. Kwa hivyo ukivaa hakikisha unaenda pahali pa heshima na ukaena hadhari ili usichafue majina, kwa sababu wengi Waislamu si Uislamu kuvaa kofia, ni pambo la Waislamu, ni pambo la Kiswahili.
Paul Muniu, TV 47, Mombasa.
Thank you, Muniu Abdallah, for that. And from that, Mount Kenya University has today launched a state-of-the-art laboratory in the effort to fight the spread of malaria in the country. The launch comes amidst an ongoing research project led by a team of researchers from the institution in Homa Bay County to offer recommendations to the government on how to control the spread of malaria, especially at the lake-based regions.
Mount Kenya University has promised to give a shot in the arm on efforts made by the government to eliminate malaria in the country. Under the 2019-2023 Malaria Strategic Plan, the university has launched a state-of-the-art Center for Malaria Elimination that will serve as the nerve center for the ongoing malaria research in Homa Bay County.
Through this lab, we want to connect. We want Mount Kenya University to really connect with the community. To the faculty members, researchers and students, I commend your commitment to excellence and your tireless pursuit for knowledge. It is through your collective effort that this laboratory has been realized.
The Vice Chancellor of the institution, Professor Deogratius Jaganye, has promised to ensure his team is fully committed to utilize the available resources, especially the one donated by the Japan International Cooperation Agency, in giving a solution to the perennial malaria cases reported in the country.
To the academic staff and students at MKU, I urge you all to seize this opportunity and take advantage of this center and all the benefits related to it. I urge you to come to this center and engage in competitive research, cultivate innovative ideas, and translate knowledge into tangible solutions.
On their side, Japan International Cooperation Agency, led by Japan Ambassador to Kenya Ken Okaniwa, they have promised their relentless support to Mount Kenya University and the country at large in ensuring a lasting solution to containing malaria is achieved.
But it is not only about the government and government. It is also about people like yourselves, people in the universities, and various other levels. And the friendship that has been developed over so many years really helps our collaboration succeed.
The students who are the primary beneficiary of the laboratory that has been launched today, they have appreciated the institution for setting a platform
for them to undertake a quality research.
Once a disease has not affected you, hawezi sikia hiyo uchungu wa huo ugonjwa.